Because reality is trying to teach you something and you're ignoring it.
You're not.
That's why you're
connection.
here again. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Reality has been patiently trying to teach you something, and your hubris and your stubbornness and your echo chamber of self-loving of your mental models, rather than reality, is getting in the way of you learning the lesson. There's a thing, I don't know if we've talked about suddenly syndrome, but there's a thing called suddenly syndrome.
We have not, that I remember.
Suddenly syndrome is the idea that, how did this suddenly happen to me? How did I suddenly end up being 400 pounds? Or how did I suddenly end up getting a divorce? Or how did I suddenly lose my job? There's nothing sudden. In order for anything really tremendously sudden to happen, it's usually the buildup of many micro choices, right? The micro makes the macro, and you have to ignore all those micro choices for it to feel like it's suddenly.
Yeah.
So they call that suddenly syndrome, and it's kind of an important idea.
You haven't paid attention along the way to the feedback that you were given, that you were heading towards those things. Like, hey, you've gained 5 pounds. Hey, you've gained 20 pounds.
Yeah,
hey,
you gained those 100 pounds.
Gained 100
pounds.
pounds. Yeah, it's like if you had been thinking about and purposely paying attention to the feedback, the evidence along the way, then you could have avoided that pain point.
Yeah, another way of saying that I love, and you can use this in lots of scenarios, it's like you didn't gain 100 pounds. You gained 1 pound 100 times. Right? You didn't gain, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't get a divorce. You chipped away at the relationship 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, Yeah,
it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I would say is, and if the people that are having this problem are ready for this level of honesty, is what are you getting by believing that you're right and everybody else is wrong when that most certainly is not the case? What are you getting?
Yeah.
Right? What little Scooby snack are you getting?
Yeah.
What Scooby snack, like the seals at this, they're like, the little fish snacks. What are you lining up for to get that snack?
Yeah.
And why do you keep doing it? Because you're getting something out of it. Like, the human mind is very logical, believe it or not. And you're never doing something for no logical reason. There's always a logic behind it. It doesn't mean that it's like logical from the outside. You go, oh, that person's kind of really hurting themselves or harming themselves. But from the inside, there's a logic. And the logic is, I get to feel right, even if I'm not right. And that little Scooby snack is what I'm after, the feeling of being right.
Right.
So I get to feel right.
Yeah, so then
But at what cost?